Japanese region as a whole. They are a punishing region. They're happy to play with leads actually a little bit more so than you would expect out of IWC regions, and it's quite similar to Saigon Juku, as they can suffocate you off objectives.
Yeah, very much so. We are now into Champion Select. Lyon Gaming, of course, going to be on the blue side. DetonatioN FocusMe on the red. The ban's already coming out. Trundle, Nidalee, and the guaranteed ban every time you see Saros in the game. That's Zilean. Opposite side, Echo and Azir. Keeping those power picks off the table. Nothing super targeted at this stage from DetonatioN FocusMe. And, of course, Lyon taking a few things away from Catch. Don't want to give him any aggressive junglers. And Zilean, the Saros special.
Yeah, 100%. Interesting that they banned Azir against Yuri, even though he had quite a disappointing performance on it. So really just banning out what they think is strong on the current patch, as opposed to something specific to Lyon Gaming. See whether that's due to a lack of research or just extreme confidence from DetonatioN FocusMe.
Yeah, we'll have to see. They're going to need a little bit of it. Only 1-1 so far. Lyon, though, really need to turn this one around. 0-3. We cannot stress this. So much pressure on this team. Playing on home turf. Need to find a win here. They are going to first pick that Alistar. An interesting choice and a takeaway from what we've seen overall today, as junglers have usually been first priority.
Yeah, completely agree, but very low priority. I mean, Kindred and Graves are still both available. I think that people like the Graves into Kindred matchup, but Catch apparently doesn't care.
Of course, Kindred going to scale pretty well, has the utility of the Lamb's Respite. Amazing team fighting skill. Is a little bit weaker on this patch. No longer has the cast range he once did on 6-6. So not quite the same amount of utility. Still remaining very popular, though. 5 out of 6 games it was picked in day 1 with only a 1-3 win rate. Now that win rate has improved today, as a couple more people have picked up wins on the champion, but you know, been a priority consistently throughout this tournament.
Yeah, and with good reach. Kindred, very rarely the sole responsibility for a loss. It's very hard to shut her out of the jungle. Generally farms very well, so I think that it's something to keep an eye on. Thiak one more time, hovering his Evelyn, probably begging his team to allow him to play it.
Doesn't look like he's going to get it, as he eventually has to hover away, but that's going to be the Ryze locked in, as well as the Gragas. Ryze, one of the picks that's been steadily rising to popularity, no pun intended, as, you know, he's just been able to dominate the mid lane, mostly with Sivir as backup. We'll have to see if that's what they go towards here this time around.
Yeah, I like the Ryze Sivir catch potential, especially with an Alistar in there as well, because all you need is one person to get snared up, and then the team kind of panics, turns around, tries to save. Alistar flies through, cleans everyone else up in a nice headbutt pole. Ryze's AoE damage is something that is often overlooked, I think, in part of his kit. Of course, that ultimate comes out and he's able to blow some people up. So very smart. Next couple of picks out of DetonatioN FocusMe actually to do neither.
Of course, the Braum and the Sivir. Braum, Alistar, kind of the 2 power picks for the bottom lane if you're not looking to pick up something like a Bard, which is a little bit more of a niche pick, I feel like, for a lot of supports. Sivir, all around a powerhouse. We've seen it every time she's in the meta. On the Hunt can be such a defining ability, and now with the Critiche, she's a team fight monster at that late stage of the game.
She's like, it's kind of the Gangplank effect, right? As soon as you allow something to AoE crit, you have extreme difficulty of balancing the teamfight capability of that champion, because one AoE crit goes back and like tags an AD carry that maybe isn't expecting it, and it's just so much ridiculous damage late game.
Yeah, and it hits everyone on the team. I mean, you think about it, 5 members getting hit by 3 separate mini crits, essentially, as they are going to be that reduced damage. It's just so much to deal with. Other side, though, looking to lock in their final picks. We'll have to see what they decide on. It looks like the Kalista will come through, so we'll get that Kalista-Sivir matchup that we talk about so much. And Poppy, the final pick, most likely for the top lane here on Lyon Gaming.
Cool. That would be a different pick here if he goes with Twisted Fate. Of course, I do like the fact that you can kind of shove Ryze in a little bit and then disappear around the map. Circle. I'm just saying, conspiracy theory confirmed.
Yeah, circles, Saros' strong suit, as we've talked about. You like to refer to things as effects. We'll call it the Saros effect. Anytime a champion is made with circles,
he's just going to pick it up and dominate. I mean, like, I kept talking about it. No one believed me that IWCA happens, and like, in the 1v1, he goes towards like Gangplank, a Zilean, and then a Varus, and I was like, you know what, guys?
Circles.
Circles.
We've got it figured out. Of course, Anivia, surprisingly, a pick that's been incredibly popular here. Kira playing his first 2 games on it over the course of the tournament. Absolutely crushing in lane. Excellent zoning use of the ultimate. Now Saros picking it up as well, so maybe one of these picks that's going to evolve within the IWCI meta as teams really start to figure out what's working.
Well, we actually have a theory behind it at Oceania, because you wouldn't understand this pain, Mr. Safer, but when you're from a region that didn't get a server at the start of the game, when you were playing on that 200+ ping, Anivia was one of the few mid laners that you could play because you just drop down the ultimate, wave clear for days, scale into the late game, and that's why predictive cues are so important on Anivia, because the wall actually forces champions to move a specific direction. So really good Anivia players will be able to hit you with that cue pretty much instantly after a wall because they know how your champion is going to turn depending on how it changes your walking path. So it's something that Kira has shown from the CIS region. Swiffer, surprisingly, hasn't shown it this, but is also a very good Anivia player in his own right. And I just feel like it's something that, us poor guys that got left out of the start, we just had to learn how to do it, man.
Hey, man. I suffered similarly, but not because NA didn't have a server, but because I was too cheap to buy good internet.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a completely different set of problems right there. No, I felt that pain as well from Melbourne.
The hyperbolic time chamber of learning abilities within the game. So you start to learn completely different skill sets. I remember going from 140 ping playing Thresh to 30 ping playing Thresh, and realizing I could never land a hook ever again.
No, and, you can't even CS when you make the first jump, so it's a little bit weird. But then you look down the lineups of these two teams. Once again, I'm going to say that it may be a little bit more of a finesse comp coming out of the Japanese lineup. With the Kindred, with the Nivea, you're going to have to be able to jockey for position around map. They have very good neutrals. I think something people overlook in Nivea's kit is the fact that we upped her damage to neutrals off the ultimate, so she takes Baron and Dragon actually relatively quickly throughout stages of the game. And on the side of Lyon Gaming, kitchen sink one more time. You're just all in.
Everything you could possibly need. You got the Ryze, you got the Kindred. We've seen how strong Kalista Alistar can be. The Chiefs absolutely dominated INTZ with that in their game. We saw consistently great engages from that Alistar-Lissandra combo. Alistar Ryze may be a little bit different for the engage opportunity, but can surely provide an immense amount of CC if given the opportunity to go in.
Yeah, they also have the Poppy and the Gragas, right? So they have the ways to start these fights. The other good thing about Kalista, we talk about it a lot, but Kalista versus Kindred. Kalista chooses when her damage goes off. So even though Kindred Ultimate saves your life for quite some time, against a Kalista, it can be kind of that double-edged sword, because as long as you're standing in there, she's in there throwing spears into you and ready to pop everyone. So I think that there is going to be like that back and forth between these two team compositions.
Really interesting as well how they're going to use the dual zones of both having the Anivia ultimate in the wall, in addition to using the Kindred ult, potentially able to use it entirely for their team with a good wall, or just use it to zone a team to where they want them to be. So I think a lot of AoE or a lot of area control coming in from this lineup on the side of Detonation FocusMe should be able to force fights on their terms, but you also don't really want to pile in on a composition that consists of Kalista, Poppy, Ryze, Alistar. You never want to be grouped up on them, so they can dictate fights, but they have to be careful which ones they choose.
Yeah, completely agree, which is why it's a little bit more finesse. Unfortunately, guys, we do have a little bit of an audio issue on Detonation FocusMe comp, so we'll see whether they were able to get that sorted out for you as quick as possible and hop onto Summoner's Rift as we check the players out on the screen fiddling with their headphones, supporting my bold claims.
You can see Saros looking pretty confident, sitting there, expressionless, ready to get into game.
I call it the eyes of the killer, right?
Eyes
when
of the killer.
You just look down the player cam and they're just like deadpanning you. So they're focused, ready to get into game. And once again, I compare Syros to Kira a lot because they're kind of the two quirky mage players from CIS and from Japan, like two more unknown regions. And now he's thrown the gauntlet. He's like, Anivia, boom.
Thrown the gauntlet against someone who is not Kira, however. So very interesting to see how this works out, but not only are they quirky mage players, they're very successful quirky mage players in terms of IWCI. And that's not something we usually see. I mean, there's historically, a lot of names in the League of Legends community that have played odd things and been successful, but not nearly as consistently as we've seen it from Saros and as we've seen it from Kira, and the trend just continues. And Anivia appearing to be a popular pick among the oddball mid players. Yeah,
and you know what? IWC regions historically have struggled to close out games, so Anivia just elongates that problem. It's something that at All-Stars we saw time and time again, that you just can't push into this champion, and it's very, very risky to dive because she walls off the rest of your team. So it's just this double-edged sword with Anivia, kind of a feeling of Azir, but without the hard playmaking ability, a little bit more hard CC out of the queue, but not like the Shurima shuffle that we've been talking about, scooping people back into your team.
Additionally, not quite as much setup time required. Azir wants that area of zone, wants that control, and we'll have to see if Anivia can do the same thing. A little bit more flexibility. You can note that she has taken the exhaust against Ryze here, and it's looking like standard lane setup so far as Yutapon throwing out that sapling, spotting out Jaral in the bush. Saros getting cheeky. So small abilities traded back and forth here, but neither side may be looking to swap lanes quite yet, although Kalista is now starting to back, so potentially going to have a lane swap, as most of the games so far today have been standard lanes.
We mentioned it a lot, but Kalista did get tapped in her laning phase, so possibly doesn't want the standard lanes. Sivir makes you lane against minions a lot anyway, so probably going to see Seiya, at least lately, go, from what we've seen, will go into a Hurricane Rush to try and kind of match that wave clear that does come out of the Sivir. But it's going to be interesting either way to see which way this game goes.
Yeah, really tough in the early game. As you said, not only did the nerfs come out, but never really was Kalista able to keep up with that wave clear pressure coming in from Sivir. So a lot of onus to be proactive on the side from Lyon Gaming to make sure that they get the optimal lane set up so that they do not get punished. Because Kalista, we've seen her be an absolute powerhouse, but in terms of pushing pressure early game, no one's ever going to beat Sivir.
Yeah, I agree, and that also unlocks Eternal there in the bottom lane, because if Braum is able to disappear, Sivir pushes out the wave, like goes into mid lane, goes and helps the jungler for a little bit, can unlock this roaming support style that we see a little bit in Japan as well. So we'll see if that becomes a factor.
And we've discussed this as well as an invisible pressure. The second Braum goes missing, you have to respect. The second Braum goes missing, you think maybe you've got the opportunity to look for the 2v1 on the Sivir, but maybe not. Maybe Braum, it's just that unpredictability, that element of the unknown forces, kind of poor play from teams if they're not careful.
Yeah, and that's something that is a recurrent theme right now. I think INTZ have been one of the best teams, at least with vision control, but a couple of other teams, even the winning teams, haven't really capitalized on vision control enough. I mean, I was talking about it last game as Issaros, you should be able to force fights over vision, not just objectives, by setting up pink wards in your jungle as defensive areas, and I think that that's something that Lyon Gaming will look to try and utilize here, because, with the Gragas, once again, with the Rise, they have great catch potential. If you go into that fog of war and you're not 100% sure it's empty, there is a potential for this team to catch one person and blow them up.
Yeah, I think a lot of this game is going to come down to, can anyone find a game in the early game? Because if you find a lead, we've seen so many teams snowball games out of control. It's never really come down to which composition can execute better, because you never make it to the point where it's about the team fight or it's about the split push, when teams are just finding kills left and right by outclassing each other in the jungle or in the mid lane, on an individual level. And while a lot of that is playing around vision and finding these advantages, at least in case of Revolta, he just absolutely dominated the competition. And so I think that this game, if Detonation FocusMe do not dominate the laning phase, Lyon have all the tools that they need to come out on top. They've got this great scaling Rise. They've got the mid-game power of Kalista Alistar, which is an absolute powerhouse, always has been. So a lot of opportunities for them to do really well with this competition.
Yeah, and I like the thought of it, right? Because it's, if you don't execute on that early game pressure, then where do you go from there? And I completely agree with you, because Revolta got to the stage last game where he would walk into the jungle, he would kind of face check a brush, someone would turn around, try and hit him a couple of times, and he's like, "No, man, I'm still coming for you. Like, I've got a completed abyssal now. Like, I'm going to try and kill you.
I've got 2-3 levels on you, 20-30 farm, and 2 kills.
Yeah.
You can't fight me, even if you hit me with everything."
Yeah, exactly right. So it did get to that point in that game where 2-3 members were trying to answer that, and it still wasn't enough. But it's like, if you set it up early enough, and if you're willing to be able to patiently bait these traps and catch people, because lots of people are greedy. I mean, I'll use the example of the Chiefs as actually we jump into game, so I might save that one. But Radier walking through his own jungle, because he was like, "I'm safe," and then Corki was like, "No, you're not. You're dead." And Radier
instantly blown up.
Yeah,
yep.
Damn it! How did I not see that coming? Well, because you didn't have good enough vision to make sure you can make that play.
Yeah, and playing around that, absolutely what defines the good teams from the great. Well, I would say the okay teams from the good, even. Vision control, just such a huge part of this game, especially as every team has started to level up in terms of their macro game. Long ago it was, can a team use vision control properly? As Seiya, not really respecting the vision here. Concussive blows coming out, Ignite going down. Seiya not burning Flash quite yet, and may just accept his fate, his first blood.
He can't burn Flash. Where is he going to go? Into their turret? He's on the wrong side of the map. They try and get Krugs, and Detonation FocusMe with just a heads-up play catch them out.
Yep, Catch going to pick up level 2 as well, and that first blood for Detonation FocusMe already starting them off on a good pace. Sniffing out the lane swap, knowing that the lane swap was coming, making sure that they get the 2v2 lanes, and now getting first blood as well. Could not have a better start for this Sivir lane, as Braum already freed up to roam a little bit and throw down some vision.
Yeah, Saras already showing that he's quite good at hitting a Nivea Qs. We'll be able to chunk Yuri just a little bit. What I want to talk about is that's a greedy play out of Lyon Gaming, because what they did is they warded and they went through the Raptor entrance of the jungle, because they thought they had the blind lane swap, and what they wanted to do was slow down the jungle of Catch and see if they can get Thiak a little bit ahead. Of course, he needs to have a little bit of a snowball advantage, because Gragas just not going to farm as quickly as a Kindred. But what they didn't account for is maybe a blind lane swap comes the other way, and they didn't save a ward for that brush. So that means you have to face check. And when you have to face check something like that, it's just going to be bad news.
Very high risk, low reward play overall, because even interrupting the jungle may not have offered them too much as Seiya just continues to take a ton of damage. The difference between level 2 and level 1 absolutely massive as Zeros continues to crush out these trades. And Catch, you know, on pace with jungle so far, now looking to get aggressive onto Thiak, although he's coming in just a little bit too late.
Yeah, he certainly is, but he is a little bit higher health as well. Catch did something that I like to do on Gragas. I think that at Gragas, the first 2 clears that you have smite, you actually have to smite the Wolf Camp, just because he is a little bit more prone to invades, and you saw that the Wolf Spirit was offering a little bit more additional vision there. Catch reads that and backs away nicely, but it's just something to keep in mind. It's a little victories on Gragas, like not getting invaded first clear. Thumbs up. Because if you get to level 6 uninterrupted, you are a powerhouse in the team fights, but he is prone to invades early on in the game.
And especially against the Kindred. We've talked about how crucial Lamb's Respite can be for those savior moments. We've seen it in a couple games today. Saigon Jokers especially, we've seen Lamb's Respite come in clutch to win out in team fights to create greater advantages, and just not as much of an option when you have to worry about that explosive cask potentially knocking you out of your own zone, out of your own safety. Bottom lane, top laners trading in the bottom lane, looking relatively even. No Echo, no dominating performance this time around from either side, no Gragas top lane, so even so far in farm, although maybe a small advantage here over to Udapon is... Oh, that's going to get contested. Thiak going to grab the Scuttle Crab at the end of the day, though, and Catch is not done yet. Moving in, though, Seiya could be next. The stun's going to come out. Eternal's continuing to put pressure on his heal will follow. Zeros, so not a whole lot of mana at disposal, and Eternal's starting to take a little bit of damage. End of the day, though, still trade in the favor of Detonation FocusMe, and it looks like Gragas was also able to make it out with his life on the bottom side of the map. Yeah,
and more importantly, the reason the trade's pretty big on the side of Detonation FocusMe is because it's the support that's getting chunked out, and he has 3 potions versus just a Doran's Blade on the Callista, so she has absolutely no way of healing up apart from, like, Alistar stamping his feet a little bit and yelling at people, so it's a tough matchup when that starts happening because you burn through Alistar's mana, especially if he's using defensive spells.
Yeah, maybe force him to put a few more levels into heal than he actually wants to. And of course, was nerfed, I think, 2 patches back. Yep. Not a huge change, honestly, because it's such a low healing number anyway that the small percentage nerf isn't that big of a deal. But does start to add up, especially in a lane that you're already losing after that first blood. Luckily, though, First Blood does go over to Braum and not over to Sivir, so not a crazy advantage yet at this point in the game.
So it depends when they get the advantage, because if they get it back in on the Sightstone and he's able to use it to pick on Thiak, then it's actually quite a big advantage, but I agree that you would probably still rather have it on the Braum than the AD carry. But this is up to now Detonation FocusMe to recognize that, you know, vision is where we got the advantage, not necessarily in power, so let's use it to create plays elsewhere, not to brute force the lane. As Thiak actually trying to come in for his first gank.
Yep, and while Thiak was looking for that first gank, we did see Poppy not wanting to use the teleport on the bottom side of the map. Miss out on a decent amount of CS, now a little bit behind, but there comes the Alistar Pulverize. Zeros with an excellent spell shield to block that one out, but Eternal could be safe. Nope, stand beside me as he makes his way back to safety among the team, and the gank not working out in the favor of Lyon Gaming.
Yeah, but Udapon actually completes the teleport, so we'll see whether he just has to run back to the lane as quickly as possible. Now Gerald gets a little bit of a respite in the bottom lane. Yeah. So, nice heads-up play from Lyon Gaming.
Works out in favor for them overall, I think, or maybe not overall for Lyon Gaming, but it does even out the CS on the bottom side of the map as Maokai desperately tries to run that one back. Interestingly, we've seen Darksteel be very popular on Echo and on Gragas. Don't see it as much on the Maokai, but it is coming out for Udapon this game.
Yeah, and I think that describes Udapon as a player, pretty much. I'm not necessarily going to say, like, this is what all Maokais will do from now on, but I have a sneaking suspicion that the Max E Olaf main will start doing this. You know, very famous for the game versus the Chiefs, where his cheese of he took Ignite Teleport, I think, and maxed E into a Malphite. So it was an interesting pickup.
Again, getting aggressive with the Mounting Dread, but that's never something you want to see. That's the kind of pick where it suddenly changes the way you play the game completely. Yeah. You either have to gank that Olaf and kill that Olaf, or just accept that that lane is going to be some kind of disaster that you've never experienced before.
Yeah, and I think the Chiefs famously went with, like, the number 2 option of, like, you know, you're on your own, buddy. Eventually we'll be able to deal with him because we have a control mage, and Olaf, of course, without a Ghost or a Flash, struggles to get on top of carries. But the laning phase was definitely brutal. As Catch is actually doing a pretty good job of farming out this jungle, but more importantly, Thiak goes back, gets the early track, is able to keep people out of his jungle, and is farming up nicely as well. So I think that this is a much better setup right now out of Lyon Gaming, and this is something that they can build on.
In some ways much better, in some ways much worse, though, as we see Anivia with almost a 30 CS lead over Ryze in the mid lane. Saros playing a circle champ, doing incredibly well, out-farming his lane opponent, though. Not something he's always known for, but a massive lead at his disposal only 8 minutes into the game.
I would agree with that. He's a team fighter, out and out. I don't think he's famous for bullying outlanes. As I said, probably more famous for like clearing as best as he can and disappearing and trying to connect with another member on his team, but doing a good job this time around. I think that like the good thing about Rise is you're always Rise, right? And I try and explain this in the nicest way possible, but 2 combos, you can either get 3 snares out or 3 Qs. Qs do the more damage, snares don't. At the end of the day, Yuri will hit Seraphs and Roa and still do damage on Rise. It's not like you can change the champion.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's going to build scaling items. Those scaling items give him so much more than others. Headbutt Pulverize coming in. TP, though, coming out on the backside on the hunt use. Is it going to make it in time? There's the Rise. Going to get knocked up. Great disengage from Eternal to save his AD carry in that exchange.
Yeah, Eternal and Seros on the exact same page there. But Thiak now here, level 7, is spotted out by a ward, but they have to keep running.
Sivir probably has the spell shield by now. Fate's Call going to be used as well, and LG just going to have to be happy with the tower here.
Potentially not even that.
Yeah, just going to have to back off at the end of the day. Too much wave clear, not wanting to force a dive. 4v3 as Ketch shows his face on the top side of the map.
Yeah, Catch was moving up. Zeros also walked up there, so Zeros in the head and good heads-up play. That was a really nice Braum ulti. There's a little bit of a fight here, Kirill versus Udapon.
Udapon doing a decent amount of damage with Corrupting Potion, Dark Seal, and actually really doing a lot in this matchup. Normally it's just kind of the back and forth trading of cooldowns, no one really doing damage to the other, but you know, Udapon consistently coming out on top. Not a major CS advantage yet. He did have to give that up after a TP earlier, but
the other thing he's doing is waiting out the candy bar really nicely. Like, people trade within the shield of the Bracer a little bit too much.
Oh, Catch potentially in trouble. Thiak not going to land the body slam, not going to commit there, but will look to take the Scuttle Crab.
So, you know, Udapon's patient in the windows that he's trading is actually netting him a pretty significant advantage in the end.
Yeah. It's, I mean, working out for him pretty well now. 8 CS lead as the wave crashes into tower. Poppy maybe picking up a few, but looking decent for him at this stage. Thiak getting hungry for the gank, but here comes Kindred on the backside. Will they get there in time? It's not going to be enough. Zeros will drop in an instant. So much damage coming in from that combo, and Catch, well, he did so much to Arcs. Not going to be enough to take down the Alistair. Triumphant Roar. More than happy to heal him up.
Yeah, also still had the ulti, so no point hard engaging onto that Alistair, and this is finally what we expected. We said Arce and Saya, they are the superstars of this team, and Thiak generally helps out that lane as misses out, but still a lot of damage. So yeah, just want to repeat that this is how you win games if you are Lyon Gaming. Get your Kalista ahead. After what was a disastrous level 1 where Saya actually fell down, he's 10 CS up pretty much and a kill. So this is pretty good news right now for Lyon Gaming.
Exactly where they want to be. They want to get to the stage where they can make or take advantage of that Kalista. And as you predicted, trying to balance out for the poor wave clear of Kalista overall, we do see the buildings of a Runan's Hurricane. So on track, as expected, but I think doing better than we would have hoped, especially after dropping first blood in that fumble on the top side of the map.
Yeah, completely agree, but good heads-up play out of Detonation FocusMe. They actually swapped their Joy onto the bottom lane. The reason it's so huge is Catch has now picked up his Devourer. There is a mark down there as well as the Dragon, right, for taking, so they'll aim to equal out on neutral turrets, but also pick up a Dragon and 7 Devourer stacks for themselves, which is a pretty good news story. If you're a Kindred player out there, you like that.
Yeah, it's absolutely everything you want in that exchange, but the downside is that they've lost so much pressure on the top side of the map as Kalista and Alistair are now starting to push in, maybe hoping to lock down that tower. Thiak and Jural hoping to pick this up here. Oh, not going to get the stun, unfortunately. Here comes Catch as well. Looks like a few cooldowns traded, but no fight starting yet. Mounting Dread. Thiak just going to make it to safety as Kalista and Alistair will drop that tower on the top side of the map.
Well, now they have to get the turret, so you see that Catch is actually in here trying to pressure up.
2 stacks, 4. That's going to be the concussive blows getting locked up. A little bit of damage traded, but the wave is just getting cleared too well on the side of Lions Gaming.
That's exactly what it is, and all of a sudden, Kalista running into that bottom lane. They didn't burn a teleport or anything like that from Udapon to try and force the play, even though they had a ward behind the turret. Don't know if that's an oversight, but we'll see whether Thiak one more wave has ultimate available. Wouldn't be surprised. There's a teleport.
They're looking for it. There's On the Hunt burn. The concussive blows going down. That's going to be the lockup onto the Gragas. It's eventually going to get stunned. Mounting Dread. Braum ultimate comes out. The kill goes down in their favor, but Kalista and Alistair are here to turn it around. Poppy as well. Zero suddenly in the wall. Lamb's Respite trying to give him a bit of a breather, but is it going to be enough as they get knocked up and taken down in an instant? I think the heal was denied by that Poppy ultimate. At the end of the day, the double kill goes in their favor. Kalista picking up one for herself.
Wow.
They're not done yet. Headbutt pull pulverized, triple for Poppy. Ceros next on the menu. They're having eggs for breakfast, and that's going to be the ace going over to Rise.
What? That was a crazy setup. So in the end, they pulled the trigger, but I think they were too late because they didn't account for the duo rotating down into that bottom lane. And a great heads-up play. You know, we always talk about this Kalista combination where they're able to throw him in, get multiple knockups. And Arce that time just would not be denied time and time again, unrelenting, going for the pressure. And Lyon Gaming, they're now got a gold lead, and for the first time, really turning up the pressure. It's just so fun to watch.
6-2 overall, the 2K gold lead you're talking about. Now looking to get their second turret, although Kalista probably going to have to back off this one. At the end of the day, a massive advantage for them and pulling off exactly what they wanted out of their composition. Running in, not giving Sivir the space she wants to set up to zone in those team fights. But man, when Lions Gaming pile onto you like that, there's just no hope because Kalista dishing out so much damage. Poppy, ugh.
We kind of said it, like the kitchen sink comp versus a comp that requires a little bit more finesse. And DetonatioN FocusMe, unfortunately, at least in that trade, just did not have the finesse required. In fact, it was the little interactions of like Jiril denying the heal, as you mentioned during that were just really, really beautiful for Lyon Gaming. And you know, DetonatioN FocusMe, they had the good lane swap as Thiak one more time visiting this lane.
Maybe in trouble here.
No, he's all right, I think.
Oh, starting to get aggressive. Knocking Eternal back to the team. Braum, stand beside me to try to make it to safety. Unbreakable used as well. Catch, just there for the disengage. Not going to lose too much on either side. And Lions Gaming suddenly with a lot more confidence. Ceros looking for the duel here. Jiral, though, making sure it's the 2v1. Not going to give him the fight that he wants. Flashing over the wall to make it to safety. But Poppy's still hungry for blood. Yutapon backing him up if he needs it, but they are just going to back off.
Well, once again, that's 2 flashes for 2 ultimates, so definitely in favor, although Yuri just burned his flash as well, so that's an equal trade there. My bad. So, yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about is DetonatioN FocusMe. Actually, let's forget it.
It's a bloodbath. You're not going to get the chance to talk, my friend. I'm sorry, but Catch dishing out so much damage. There's on the hunt. Jiral's overstayed his welcome. A little too confident after that. Ace in his favor and will get dropped. DetonatioN FocusMe collapse on him. Now setting their sights on the turret, however, on the side of Lions Gaming. Potentially overstaying their welcome. Yutapon not going to go in.
Yeah, it certainly looked like he wanted it, but there was no Sivir ultimate to help out the engage. Want to talk about the fact that DetonatioN FocusMe, come on, Catch. Just give it. Yeah, all right, cool. He's out.
Go.
So
You're good.
DetonatioN FocusMe made the heads-up play of rotating into the bottom lane and to secure the Dragon, Scuttle Crab, in the bottom lane turret.
Oh.
Turret dive.
Fate's Call coming in. They're going to look to set their sights on Eternal once again. They know he has no flash. That means he's going to get knocked out. Thiak picking up that kill, and the tower now going to fall as well.
Ship sailed. So Lyon Gaming absolutely dominating this map on the second half of it. You know, they got the top lane turret, made a good rotation back in the bottom lane, came up with 2 heads-up team fight. Now they're continuing to pick on this Sivir. We already mentioned that, you know, Saya will have a period of weakness, but once he picks up their first item and can match the wave clear, it's all good news stories for them. They also start denying some of the big stacks away from the Kindred, so Catch going to be slightly further behind than he would like. And honestly, where was this Lyon Gaming up against Hard Random?
I love everything that they're doing in this game.
Yep.
They're finding summoners, aside from the first blood, let's be honest, but they're finding advantages. They knew Braum didn't have that summoner spell. They knew they were good to dive again. They're punishing DetonatioN FocusMe left and right for their over-aggression, and we called Japan a more reactive region. We called Japan a region that wants to punish, that's content just playing even, but this time around it's Lyon Gaming who are punishing DetonatioN FocusMe for overextending, for getting over-aggressive, and trying to balance out what they wanted to be even objective trades.
Yeah, and you know, once again, they're a reactive region, but Yutapon had a moment in that bottom lane to pull the trigger on a teleport play earlier than he did. In the end, he went way too late, and it's just snowballed this game out of control because it's so crazy. Yutapon had such a big CS advantage. Ceros had such a big CS advantage. This is not what we expect out of the Japanese region. We expect team fighting, not necessarily the huge laning players, but they got an advantage in an area we wouldn't necessarily expect them to, and then threw away that advantage on an area we expect them to dominate it.
Maybe just over-eager, not used to having an advantage in a lane, not used to playing it around it, but doesn't really make sense as to why they fumbled so hard in the team fights there, especially that all-pivotable ace in the bottom lane. Really devastating for Japan, and now Yutapon, you know, going down here to pick up some farm, going to continue to extend the CS advantage, but the gold still in favor of Poppy as she's picked up those 3 kills.
Yeah, completely agree. And, you know, now it's all about consolidation. One good thing that you have to point out for the Japanese squad is the fact that they still have Sivir as well as an Anivia. So as far as wave clear goes, they're not really hurting. For that, they will be able to clean up the map and defend these turrets that do remain quite well. It's now up to Thiak to try and pressure around the outer turrets. Already mentioned this once today, but if you have Gragas, if you ward very, very deep in the jungle, you can catch people out as they rotate through. If no one rotates because of explosive cast, you just pop the Anivia out from underneath the turret. Scrambled eggs for breakfast, easy as you like.
Pretty solid option for them, and they are setting up a little bit more deep vision.
Interesting interaction.
Maybe looking to get a little bit cheeky here as they look to take the Rift Herald.
So Catch jumped over the wall. Eternal stood behind him and dragged him back over the other side of the wall. I've never seen that before in my life.
I don't really know what to explain there. I think their whole plan was to sneak this Rift Herald.
Yeah.
And then it's just that embarrassing moment where you have to walk around. Not quite going to get it, but they will get this Rift Herald. We'll have to see if they use the pushing power or if it's just going to be an improved recall coming over for the Kindred here.
You know, there are some pretty cool things, as this is what I was talking about. Oh, he's been spotted now, but he
can't see it.
Yep, get him.
Oh, looking for the opportunity. Here comes Rise. There's one snare, looking for another, potentially the second one, going to lock him down. And you talked about the 3 Qs or the double snare. It's the 3 Q option. And just to finish it off, scrambled eggs for breakfast in favor of Lions Gaming. 8-3 now the scoreline.
And this is why I love Gragas into control mages, because no other jungler, well, Lee Sin can, but he's committal on it. Lee Sin's knockout is a melee ability. Gragas is his range, and you saw just lobs it over the wall, follows it up with a body slam. Very nicely done, and now they're looking for potentially Catch. Not
wanting to live up to his name in that one, hoping not to get caught out here. As Yuri does manage to pick up the blue buff, and Lions Gaming starting to choke out Detonation FocusMe.
Flash Headbutt Pole was available. Now Catch onto Saya.
Aggressive. There's 3 stacks. Catch doing so much damage with that buff. They're not going to chase, however, heal coming out from Saya. That's all they're going to get.
Yeah, so in the end, Lions Gaming not pulling the second aggressive move. Maybe a little bit of an error because it is a Summoner Spell burn on Saya. Catch with a heads-up play. I like it from him a lot, but still got to call it as it is, and it's 3,500 gold for the Latin American North squad. And they're starting to really ramp up in how they play around this map, denying blue buff, denying camps away from Catch. Only going to mean good things.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how they can transition this, however, as it has been a weakness for them in the past, transferring these early game leads. We saw in their first game against Hard Random, or sorry, not in their first game against Hard Random, in their match earlier today versus Hard Random, not yesterday. As I get completely lost, that they got completely crushed. But in their first game yesterday versus Isurus, versus potentially a team that plays just south of them, they had an excellent Jhin Varus comp. They found leads, and they just were not able to transition to it, and eventually got scaled out of the game. The same thing I think could happen here with this Anivia pick.
Yeah, it certainly is a possibility, and I mentioned how important it is to be able to pick on the Anivia as another engage here in the top side of the map. They still want it.
Fade's call going in. Is still going to catch him despite the on the hunt.
Behind.
Disengage, looking for the opportunity. Ours
Double
may have
teleport.
overstayed. Utapon in as well. Double TP's coming out, but Yuri's in the backside, and he's looking for the fight. Lamb's respite. Will it be enough as Catch is the only one left inside on his team? Team moves back in for the heal overall, but the Kindred's going to drop, and so many members are dying, or not dying, rather, as no one has gone down quite yet. Such a bloody team fight. So many low health bars, but only one has dropped. As once again, Lions Gaming find an advantage. Both sides simply backing off.
Yeah, exactly right. So it is a 1-0, but you kind of saw how these team fights go. Lions Gaming piling it on top of each other. Great double teleport play. One more time, Seros a little bit late to that because he doesn't have that. Has to flap his way into the top lane. And it's starting to really punish. I think that he goes swiftness boots after this and just sees if he can make up the distance with a little bit of movement speed. Because honestly, this Rise, it was down 30 CS. Now within 10, Yuri's starting to perform very admirably.
Has everything he needs, has that Rod of Ages, picking up the Merc Treads to make sure he does not get locked down or take too much magic damage from this Anivia, and feeling a lot more comfortable. It's very clear. 2-0-1 his scoreline. Every scoreline on this team looking fantastic. 0-0-7 in the bot lane, 3-1-4 for that Kalista as well, and Lions Gaming dominating this, and it does not look like their other performance where they were struggling to push an advantage. They are finding every opportunity. They are winning every fight that comes towards them.
Yeah, completely agree. And the other important thing to note is the fact that Saris is an immediate upgrade. So that's a huge power spike right now for the Rise. If he wasn't strong enough already, Dragon will be the next objective that the teams look towards. And this means even further Devourer stacks denied away from Catch. And we've said it's hard to keep a Kindred down, but it seems like Say is Kalista, as well as the rest of the Lion Gaming lineup, trying to do that.
Catch now feeling safe to take this buff, or to take this stack for himself. Poppy coming in to spot it out, however. Only when the Dragon was taken down, only when he knew that there were multiple members committed that did he feel comfortable moving in to take a single camp. That is how scared DetonatioN FocusMe have to play at this stage of the game.
Yeah, and it's just strange to watch. It's pretty straightforward composition from Lyon Gaming now that they are ahead. We've talked about the fact that if the team gets ahead, they're generally staying ahead in this competition right now.
Have a pull coming in.
It's because like they're just not. This isn't a hard composition to execute, right? There's no setup time. It's not like you're running a teleport on something like a Gangplank or even an Azir where you have to come in and get barrels or soldiers down. Something like this. It's Ryze, Poppy, teleport in straight away, blow up the closest target. They do enough damage in this case. Like Poppy Lissandra, what the Chiefs were running, very similar. You teleport in, all of a sudden you got the big flanking play. Alistar flies in, you clean everyone up. Catch, you're strong. Don't know if you're that strong.
Yeah, don't know if anyone's that strong at this stage of the game. As Yuri, both of those major items completed for himself, and a little bit of magic resist over to Saros, but Rod of Ages, Unholy Grail, definitely not a powerhouse in terms of item spikes in favor of that.
But the longer the team fight goes, if he starts picking up some kills in there, the refreshing mana will keep him nice and sustained off in that fight. So it's still a nice build. It's just more of like a long-term build. He wants the team fights to go like 10, 15 seconds and have tremendous control around them. So Saros is starting to ramp up. Still, you're right, needs a couple of items. Probably goes towards a Void Staff next and sees if he can chunks people out. Double Spirit Visage is just incredibly annoying to deal with. It's going to be GA actually.
Coming in for Ryze, yeah. Very difficult to take down this Ryze already. So many tanky stats between that passive and the Seraph's Embrace, in addition to the Rod of Ages. I think that's the thing that's so brutal about Ryze, is that he builds mana, he builds defensive, he does damage, and he becomes tanky. Yeah,
and even further than that, right, is that if he goes something like Abyssal, sure, he does more damage, but you can kind of turn around and deal with him, especially if you're an AD carry. If he has GA, it's like, I have to kill this guy 3 times pretty much. Like, through his
multiple passives, through the Seraph shield.
Shield passives, like, there's just stuff going everywhere, and then you're like, and he's got a damn GA. Like, this is just annoying. Like, double dips because he gets the shields, and of course, raw resistances help out further with that. Like, it's just a very smooth item build for Ryze, where you're strong throughout the entire points of the game.
Yeah, very good champion overall. We saw a lot of bans coming out onto it yesterday. Some interesting picks, and working out very well for Lions Gaming as a team. Kind of waiting for them to maybe push their advantage here. Gragas once again. Interesting wall. Going to deny that pink ward at least for a few seconds, but Gragas maybe hoping to make another cask play. In the meantime, it seems to me that Lions Gaming can just keep pushing for neutral objectives and keep looking to force Detonation FocusMe into fights.
Yeah, it certainly looks to be that way. Don't get me wrong, Detonation FocusMe will eventually scale up to a nice team fighting composition, so Lions Gaming need to be aware of that. But good neutral secure here. As you can see, they march into this and chunk out the turret fairly successfully. But I'm looking towards Dragons, Barons. If they can start getting those stacking up, it will be fantastic for this squad. Force Detonation FocusMe out into the open, where Lions Gaming should be able to use that double teleport to catch them out.
Yep, splitting the pressure across the map. 1-3-1 as Ryze sets his sights on the mid lane, Poppy in the top, and the remaining members now setting their sights on this bot lane tower. It was a little bit of damage earlier, and now the tower itself is going to drop. The Dragon Burn helping make that one a little bit easier as they extend their gold lead to 5K 25 minutes in.
Even though, I say caught a little bit.
Potentially in trouble here. 3 stacks. So many stacking buffs going down onto him. Looks like both are going to fall off before they can make anything happen, however.
Yep, so even though Zerost has so much wave clear at the moment with that static shiv as well as the Essence Reaver, the fact that he can't approach the creep line means that Say is able to chunk out that turret. There's just way too much dive potential out of Alistar with ultimate as well as Gragas with flash. So respect shown from DetonatioN. And they're about 5,000 gold down. It's not the end of the world, but a very significant gold lead for this stage of the game.
Definitely need to stop the bleeding, and they've been doing a good job of doing that, or of that so far. They've lost the one tower, not the place where they want to be, but they haven't given up any inhibitors. They haven't given up any barons, and that's the silver lining at this stage. Is nothing that it's not a lead that they cannot overcome. They have the scaling, they just need to keep stalling.
Yeah, and as long as the base is not broken, you feel like it is a game that can go on for a very long time if you are Detonation FocusMe, because eventually it becomes harder to make these rotations throughout the lanes because you're going from outer turret to outer turret, rather inhibitor turret to inhibitor turret, much shorter path. Udapon trying to get cute there, but it's a 3-1-2.
Not quite as strong as he was in the early game. Darksteel actually leaving the build path. Does sell for a decent amount of gold. Oh. Potentially looking for the pick here, although both sides just going to back off. Spear getting picked out, and now it looks like they're just going to rinse and repeat as LG now moving their pressure onto the top side, maybe hoping to get another inner tower.
Certainly looks to be the case, and you got to respect Lion Gaming now that they've got their first real significant lead of the competition. Closing this one out quite methodically in their deliberate movement around the map. Udapon, who is one of those big flanking forces for his team, can't join really because of the pressure that Poppy is putting up. And there is still that threat of being dove both in the mid lane and the top lane for Detonation FocusMe, so they have to respect this composition.
Fans in Mexico City have to be happy with this one. It's looking like not an assured win, but it's looking like a confident lead coming in here from Lions Gaming and maybe able to make it a 1-3. They're not over the brink. They're on the edge. They need to win this game, but they're not out of the tournament yet.
But as we said, must-win games, they kind of boost up your team. They can do one of two things. Like, obviously, they can destroy your morale completely if you lose in a close fashion, or they can really start building you up. And this has to be confidence-inspiring because it is their duo lane that we expect to do well. 3-1 and 4, 0-0-7, you know, 7 out of 9 kill participation for both of them. Their mid laner is up in CS now and has had a much better performance on Ryze than he had on something like the Azir earlier. So,
now getting the third dragon as well, making it that much easier to engage. Zero's burning the ultimate out of fear, out of respect for Yuri, and now they're looking for the dive, but they have to kill that Ryze 3 times, as we've said. TP coming in as well. They really want to take this guy down. Stun coming in from concussive blows. GA coming out. A brief reprieve, but we can be sure that this Ryze is going to drop.
It certainly is going to fall down, but at what cost? Because we've already mentioned the dragon burning, and he has himself that Iceborne Gauntlet, so they need to take Baron right now. We already mentioned it. Zeros does pretty significant damage to it with that ultimate.
Poppy has TP though. They could look for the fight.
I don't know if they're going to. Maybe they just take an inhibitor in response. No, looks like it's coming out.
Here comes the fight, looking for it. Fate's Call coming out, just trying to delay this one. Going in onto Zeros, getting popped up, but there's the Lamb's Respite coming down, making sure that the AD carry will not drop. Catch doing what he can, but he's taking so much damage from the Baron, has to flash over the pit, and Utapon going to be the sacrificial lamb for Detonation FocusMe. A little bit too aggressive to take the Baron, not losing the inhib. And now it looks like can Catch steal this one out. He does have Smite, but he does not have Flash. Art's trying to deny any potential turnaround here. They're hoping to get this one. Thiak burning it down. Utapon looking for the opportunity. LG secure the Baron, and a few members of Detonation FocusMe as well. QSS coming out. Saros, no hope. 2 kills going over in their favor. 3 kills. And now the TP coming in as well.
This could potentially be game. Lions Gaming just absolutely turn it on. They have Baroned up creeps. They're going to march them into the base. A huge creep wave that was prepared by Jirul, the top laner, and disaster strikes for Japan.
30 minutes in, and LG are looking so strong. They're going to pick up the kill onto Sivir, soloed out by Seiya on the backside. Utapon desperately trying to keep the game going, but the turret won't even take down Thiak. And as they move forward, as Utapon drops, Lyon Gaming are going to find their first win in the International Wildcard Invitational.
And as we said, backs against the wall. What a heroic effort to be able to pull this one out. Detonation FocusMe going with a late game scaling composition. Sivir, you know, the Anivia, so much wave clear, but they fight in the open because Lyon Gaming finally draw them out, and it just does not go their way.
And I'm just absolutely blown away by this performance coming in from Lyon Gaming. 0-3 at the start. They were looking down and out. It was looking so hard from them, but that game was just about as clean as the INTZ game, or INTZ game rather. It wasn't the jungler who made it happen, but it was the bot lane. It was that Kalista, that Alistar, the excellent movement coming in from Gragas, and they found a massive advantage, capitalized on it, and forced Detonation FocusMe into some horrible positions, eventually winning the game.
And I'm just actually going to take a look here at Detonation FocusMe because I feel like they're maybe underestimated this team. I mean, we saw a Ryze ban coming out from Hard Random on the blue side. They understood that they scouted this guy in the mid lane. He's quite a good Ryze player. They also knew on Hard Random's lineup that they were going to focus the mid lane and they needed to bottom lane, and they needed to snowball mid lane to create another pressure point. What happened in this game? Detonation FocusMe do not respect the duo lane at all. Thiak goes there multiple times. There's no counter jungle pressure coming out of Catch on the other lineup. They're able to use that double teleport out of Ryze, out of the top lane Poppy, and just generate play after play after play. And Seiya makes the other lane pay. As soon as he gets ahead on this Kalista, he tears the game open and grabs it by the scruff of the neck. And Detonation FocusMe just had no response for this.
No, not at all. And we think about back to that first crucial moment when Lions Gaming take top lane tower, immediately try to shift their bottom lane, or their bottom lane down to the bottom lane to try to protect that outer tower, and then Detonation FocusMe know that they have to trade objectives, want to trade objectives, and underestimate their opponents completely. Just like you said, we saw that Pentakill going down. Suddenly this Poppy that was so far behind, this Ryze that was so far behind, instantly made useful as they managed. Poppy found 3 kills in that fight, completely dominating overall, and a massive change of pace in the game.
And I'm going to go back to it. Double teleport, IWC regions, get on board. It is just so important right now in this tournament because you can capitalize on every single error. Time and time again, Saros was not there to help his team out. Anivia provides so much control. That's why Kira takes the teleport on his Anivia so we can actually help out in these situations, but it was just never going to be the case. So one more time, hats off to Lyon Gaming. They had a shocker against Hard Random, but able to pick up the slack here against Detonation FocusMe. It was a game they have to win, and they execute on it beautifully.
Yeah, and now Detonation FocusMe steadily approaching that position where they could be, just like Lyon Gaming, close to down and out. We're going to have to see if they can turn it up in their coming games, because that was not at all clean. They picked for the late game. They had good late game options. They even found that first blood going over to Braum and Sivir, but it just wasn't enough for them to find a legitimate advantage, and instantly turned on them because they just disrespected their opponents, quite frankly. Overextended, overcommitted multiple times, even after the ace, I would say. Just not a performance that they could be happy with. At the end of the day, Lions Gaming, not missing a beat. You want to overextend, we'll take this fight, we'll take this kill, we'll take these objectives, and in the end, we'll take the game.
Yeah, exactly right. And, you know, now Detonation FocusMe joins the likes of the Chiefs and what was INTZ before their last performance, where they are now 1-2, and they'll expect it to make playoffs, one of these teams, and it's just going to be an uphill battle. All of a sudden, the CIS regions, they're just sitting back smiling. They must be so happy with how this tournament has worked out, because right now they're sitting on top of the castle. Looks pretty good.
Everyone else engaged in a complete and total bloodbath, and we'll have to see if that trend continues after the break. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back.